Life gives you some really unexpected twists and turns. And to me, that's kind of what makes it fascinating. Confounding, yes. Confusing, exasperating, wonderful, all that stuff. But boy, just a few months ago, we were planning on a normal year, probably you and I and everybody we knew, looking forward to 2020 and seeing how we could, market products, bring in new clients and customers, have a normal year, whatever that is. Now, of course, normal's new. It's a different new normal. Lots of things are indeed normal. We need to sleep. We need to eat. We need to go to jobs, a lot of us, work, make money, talk with family and friends, keep in touch with people. People around the world are facing a changed world, one in which our economies are upended. A lot of jobs are over, done. Businesses are closed. Events are canceled. And we're, trying to move forward and act as if everything, or as much as we can grab onto, remains as normal as possible. Hey, it's Tim Patterson. This is Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee for April. Do the math here, 20th. It's already the 20th. Wow. Tomorrow is my youngest son's 20th birthday. It's been 20 years. Wow. He's a working fool now. He's in the grocery business and works 40 or 50 hours a week stocking shelves. He's, I guess, one of the heroes, I guess. And he works all night. He doesn't see too many people that come in and, to stores to buy stuff. He sometimes does that in the morning, but he's there all night long. He's young. He can do it. I've done the night shift before. It's not my most favorite thing. Anyway, check out my main hub site, TradeshowGuy.net. It's always got the latest podcast on it. You can find the blog through there. You can find the Trade Show Guy exhibit site through there. You can find the 2 books, find some freebies, find some other information there. So yeah, it's the thing. TradeshowGuy.net. I mentioned that things do remain normal. Many things remain normal in spite of the new normal of a lot of things, social distancing and all that. Not being able to go to a restaurant for many of us. Life goes on, like, hey, you might have a leaky roof. Your foundation might crack and you got to figure out how to deal with things like that. That stuff doesn't stop just because the economy is, basically a shell of itself, thanks to the coronavirus. And I'm just the guest to answer at least some of the part of those questions. Garrett Greenberg of Fortifi Financial is in Sacramento, California. I did a thing on LinkedIn here 3 or 4 weeks ago. I said, hey, if you got something worth talking about that relates to what's going on in the current economy or the events industry, let me know. Well, he and I got on the phone, talked. He reached out to me. And he told me about this program, which I'd never heard of. It's almost a national. I don't think it's every state in the country, but it's a program that he works with in California as well as a couple of other states. And he's with a company called Fortifi Financial. The program helps homeowners and business owners to get low interest, long terms for badly needed fixes and repairs based not on your ability to pay, but the equity in the property. I've never heard of this program, so it's kind of interesting. It's not a normal program. And given the crazy world we're living in today, I thought, even though this conversation has nothing to do with the events or trade show industry, might have something to do with stuff you're going through, either in your business or in your personal life. This might be worth, exploring. So I thought, let's get Garrett on the show, and we did this conversation where I said, explain this to me very simply. So this is how that conversation went. I want to welcome Garrett Greenberg to the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Garrett, pleasure to have you aboard, and thanks for spending time. I appreciate you making time.
Absolutely, Tim. Thanks for having me.
And the reason that we are talking is because I had put on a LinkedIn here a couple of weeks ago, hey, if anybody wants to be on my podcast and you got something pertinent to talk about with what we're going through or events and trade show industries or anything that kind of relates to business and the challenges we have, let me know. And so that's kind of how we hooked up. And I had to kind of wrap my head around what you do. You work with a company called Fortifi. You've been to that. Your background is in sales. But this program kind of intrigued me. The PACE Nation you mentioned, the PACE program. So let's start at the beginning. What is the program that you guys are talking about? It's getting money to people. It's a lender program that helps people that need things done, like a leaky roof fixed and a foundation fixed and stuff like that. So let's kind of start. I'll just kind of give you the microphone and let you kind of go from there and give me kind of a broad view of what we're talking about.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. The 10,000-foot view is the PACE program stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. So if you're in California or Florida and you want to do a home improvement or remodel that increases your energy efficiency, reduces your water consumption, or repairs your foundation, you have access to this program. It's a 100% financing, zero down for the customer program, and it's not based on the homeowner's credit score. That's a big plus nowadays because a lot of people are credit challenged. And as we go through this virus episode, we feel like that number might grow a little bit,
I have
unfortunately.
no doubt.
Yeah. So we're trying to help folks, and the end user, the population at large, is the greatest beneficiary of this program. So it records as a property tax lien, which is a very big privilege and a huge advantage for the homeowner because it's not on their personal credit, doesn't show as a loan. And obviously, property taxes due once a year, and it goes in typically at the middle point of the year. So there's a lot of advantages there for the homeowner.
So let's say, let me interrupt you for a minute. Let's
Sure.
say you need a new roof. That's $20,000. Just throwing that number out. That goes as a lien against your property taxes, but you don't pay it off that year. You pay it off over time. It could kind of amortize over 20 or 30 years. Is that a good way to look at that?
Correct. 30 years is the longest term, and it varies by jurisdiction. Typically, you'll see 30 years as a solar project would qualify
Okay.
for that. Roofs are usually 20 or 25 is the longest term.
Gotcha. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that's pretty much the explanation. It's an easy program where homeowners can finance their necessary improvements and minimize their exposure and not come out of pocket with their cash.
Now, is this program been around a while? Is it a government program? I mean, just curious where that comes from. What's the history of the program? It's something I frankly have never heard of. So that's what makes me kind of curious about it.
That's a great question. So the program has been around in a few different versions since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in the most recent version. This is a very stable, very secure version that we're in now. It's very clear and upfront and transparent for the homeowner. They get their loan docs, they get full disclosures. Our underwriting team calls every homeowner during the sign-up process and at the job completion process to make sure all the check boxes are checked and they know exactly where they're at in the process and what their payment's going to be and all that good stuff.
So on your website, there's a short little video that's like a minute long that explains kind of some of the things you could use this for. And the kind of the bullet points that jumped out at me: renewable energy, storm protection, water conservation. So give me some examples of projects you've done, projects the company's done that would fit under those that would make sense for a homeowner or owner of a commercial property, because it works for commercial properties too, I understand,
Sure.
that they could look at to access this program.
Sure. So it's really the amount of funding available for someone that owns, let's say, a large commercial property is per parcel.
Mm-hmm.
So on the commercial side, this helps a lot in the multi-tenant, multi-family type buildings where they might need to do some big HVAC overhaul or repair the foundation. And, some of the areas of Northern California that are more prone to earthquakes and stuff like that, that can be a real big help to folks like that.
Go ahead.
But yeah, and then the other part is solar, dairies, and, the larger commercial structures that that benefit from a solar producing a large array or something like that. It can really change their trajectory entirely of the property.
I would guess if you're able to do that. I'm just thinking. My wife and I walk 3 or 4 miles every morning with the dog, and we see some properties that have 8 and 10, apartments in there, and some of them are really well taken care of. Others are, maintenance deferred, as you might put it. They need a new roof, or there's cracks in the foundation. And I would suspect that something like that you would be worth asking about. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And with a project like a re-roof or an HVAC being out or a foundation repair or fill in the blank, there's always a cost and a risk of waiting. Like, for example,
Well, yeah.
a roof that leaks, a couple of drops in an attic, a little bit in the insulation is not really a big deal. But if that leak gets worse and you get a leak down inside of a wall, let's say behind a kitchen wall, where you've got a bunch of electronics and finished tile and stuff like that, by the time you get around to it, if you want to wait as a homeowner, you could be looking at an entirely new cost bracket, a whole bunch more money to repair that problem.
And I'm guessing that now during this challenge when a lot of people, tens of millions of people are out of work, at least temporarily, because of the COVID-19 coronavirus, and they're financially challenged. But if an issue comes along, all of a sudden they've got, gosh, the roof is leaking. I got no resources. It doesn't depend on their current income. It depends on the equity they have in the property and how the property can help amortize that. And the property is actually the one that qualifies for the loan. Is that how they would look at that? Look at that?
Correct. That's the first qualification is the homeowner needs 10% equity to qualify.
Okay.
And then
That's actually pretty small.
That's not that much. I mean,
Yeah.
in Northern California, you have a home for 5 minutes and you got that. So,
Well, that's true.
Also they do need to show ability to pay. So we do need to prove some income for their protection to make sure they're okay with the monthly payment. The good side of that is that with the longer terms and the easier payment structure, the monthly payment that we have to show them being able to afford is usually very small.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very beneficial that
Now,
way.
you mentioned at the top that you work with certain geographic areas, but what is it a nationwide program? Is this applicable to everyone everywhere, or you just only work with some people? I'm just curious how someone in an area that you don't specifically work with would approach this and how they would find information, like websites they can access, that sort of thing.
That's a great question. So Fortifi is in Florida and California, and will be in Ohio soon. The PACE program, generally speaking, is state by state, but there are 32 states that are in some stage of getting a PACE program enacted for their residents.
Interesting. And is there a website that you would direct them to find out more information if their specific state falls into that umbrella?
That's a great question. There are a few resources out there. The easiest one is a nonprofit website. It's called pacenation.org, I believe. And that has a nice, easy map where you can click on your state and check and see what stage your state is in as far as getting a program like this turned on for you.
Interesting. Well, it's been interesting to learn about this program, and I think you've done a great job of describing it. I know I've learned a lot. And, it's kind of off the beaten track of what I normally do with events and trade shows. But given the fact that there's so much going on and so many people in so many different industries losing their jobs, at least temporarily, and there's just a change. And this seems to me to be something that is worth, letting people know about. And again, I hadn't heard of it till you reached out to me. And at some point in my, last 20 years, it would have been something that I would have said, hey, that would have come in handy. And it might come in handy to some people right now, especially if they're facing a roof that blew off in the wind or something like that. Anyway,
That's a great point. I mean,
yeah.
frankly, it would have helped everyone if this was already around in maybe '06 before
Right.
before the last downturn. Many contractors would have stayed in business, and
Yeah.
people would have been spending less on their projects had we already been around. So that's a very good point.
And the other aspect of that, of course, is not only does a homeowner or a building owner or a residential owner, a commercial building owner get the funds they need, it helps the contractors because they're now doing work which they may not have otherwise done. So it kind of balances out. It helps both sides of that equation. So
It benefits everyone and the economy at large. It makes it easier for the homeowner, especially jobs that are going to finish after July 1st of this year, 2020, since it goes into the property tax, and property tax rolls go in June 30th of every year. Not only is the homeowner looking at a low, easy monthly payment, but now they're not even paying until the end of 2021. So they've got a nice break before they need to start paying. And that helps a lot of the homeowners we work with mitigate some of those fears around this virus and, my cash and what's going on with my job and stuff like that. Most people can pretty much just feel comfortable that by the end of 2021, this will be totally in the rearview mirror. We'll have a vaccine. It'll be totally forgotten about.
fingers crossed. Garrett Greenberg with Fortifi out of Sacramento. It's really interesting to hear about this program. I appreciate you taking time and explaining it very easily so I can understand it, and hopefully other people can too. So what's the best place to get a hold of you?
Me personally, just give me a call. I don't know if you want me to state my number now.
You go ahead. I know it's in the background of your little thing there, but go ahead and maybe the website and the phone number, and we'll stick some of that stuff in our show notes as well.
That'd be great. So it's fortifi.com. That's TIFI.com. And then I can be reached personally at 916-298-9293. We'd love to
Very
talk
cool.
if anyone has any questions or would like to know more about the program.
Garrett, I appreciate you spending time with me again. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks again to Garrett Greenberg of Fortifi Financial for being on the show. Check the show notes for links to the various programs and things that he talked about and see how the loan program might assist you in your situation. This week's one good thing before we close out the show. My wife and I have been watching a show on HBO because HBO's got this, I guess for the short time being, it might be over by the time this is on, but it's a show called Succession, which I'd never heard of. And we thought, well, let's watch this. Brian Cox, a great actor, one of my favorite actors. He did King Lear. He's a British actor. He's, in his 70s. Well, he plays this matriarch of a large media. He's a media mogul, basically, in New York City, and he's got a family, 4 offspring, 4 kids, 3 sons and a daughter. And the show called Succession, he obviously wants to hand off his business, his holdings to his kids, and there's just all about the infighting. And they're billionaires. They have tons of money. They can, do whatever they want, but hey, they're just people. A fascinating show. Brian Cox is just blistering on the screen. I would highly recommend watching Succession if you get a chance to watch that, if you haven't done that. There we go. That is this week's one good thing. That is this week's show, Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. We keep doing it. Keep showing up. I hope you do the same. Thanks.